So hopefully the audio is okay here. So Niraj, I know this is last minute, but you were in town, so thank you for joining us today. We only have about 10 or 15 minutes. So I just want to very quickly get to the meat of this, which is, first of all, tell us a little bit about what you're building at Ritual and the problem that you're solving and your vision for AI and Web3 and how Ritual fits into all of that.
Sure. And thanks for having me on short notice. So AI has been a technology that's been in development for the past 50 years. And really what has captivated the interest of people in 2023 and 2024 was the creation of a couple of different emerging sections or types of AI models, namely large language models and diffusion models and the like. And it's really sparked this renaissance in the AI space in terms of products and users and sort of the engineering and research that underlies all of those innovations. So in that, we've seen products like ChatGPT get to hundreds of millions of users on a daily active recurring basis in the matter of 2 years, which is really impressive, and it's the fastest growing product of all time. And so as we have this now very powerful technology that will continue to get even more powerful over the next 10 or not even 10 years, the next 5 or 10 years, and we'll have billions of users using AI products, what are the risks and challenges of centralized AI? A lot of it is the fact that AI is controlled by so few people. It's controlled by a couple of companies or governments, and it really limits what you can do from a technological standpoint. It limits what goes into the models and what you can say out of the models and in different products. It limits what you can build on top, ultimately. And this is, I think, an issue with centralized platforms in general, and AI is in some ways the next great technological platform. So AI crypto is a space that excited me because you can take the power of crypto, which is a tool for self-sovereignty, and combine it with AI, which is a tool for infinite abundance, knowledge compression, and create this great combination that I think AI can help crypto and crypto can help AI.
Yep, that's a great answer. And we saw in the past with previous Web3 trends, we saw like the metaverse as a thing for a while, and then people thought, oh, maybe it's not as important as people thought it was originally, right? It became kind of like a red herring. And then for a while, NFTs also became a very hype kind of subject. So there's a bunch of folks wondering right now, like, is Web3 AI kind of the next hype phase? And will there be a pullback from that? Or is it kind of here to stay? And do you think it has the same risks that the metaverse has? What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My view, so in some ways, maybe one thing that might be useful to tell the audience is the why now question of crypto AI. You remember as well as many people in the room, crypto AI, there were some projects back in 2017, 2021, but most of them didn't really pan out. And I think a lot of it was because of the answer I just gave one question ago, which was the creation of the transformer architecture in 2017 kicked off this amazing revolution in LLMs, and then the creation of ChatGPT to show off the power of GPT-3 was another great push in this AI race. We had AI projects and companies 10 years ago, but they failed to prove an interesting consumer use case, and so there was a lull for many years, as you've seen as well. But the why now is that now these things actually work. Now there's a bunch of users, and that's on the AI side. On the crypto side, we've seen the cryptography behind blockchains accelerate quite dramatically. In 2017, we were using single blockchains that were proof of work based, and there was no parallelization. And now we have blockchains that are POS based and have new databases and new methods around execution and consensus. And so we now have a way to scale AI workloads on-chain, or more accurately off-chain, proven on-chain, which is the kind of evolving paradigm for doing any sort of application in the Web3 ecosystem today. And so this makes it an exciting time to see what kind of experimentation will we get in the ecosystem. This is the first time I've seen the AI vertical within crypto become like a big track alongside layer 2s and privacy and interop. AI has enough projects and people in it and attention, capital, et cetera, that it's attracting a lot of activity. So this is all to say we're really focused on the problem of how do you bridge smart contracts to AI models. And then, ultimately, I think we'll see a lot of interesting emergent behavior from this, from this kind of, technology creation. We saw with Ethereum in 2014. I think people in Ethereum in 2014 didn't really know what was going to get created, and now we have this burgeoning ecosystem of applications, thousands and thousands of applications. And I think we're going to see something very similar in AI. And I think what we're trying to do is make the crypto AI ecosystem, bigger as a whole, have people innovating in different parts of the stack, and ultimately what we're trying to solve is, building and creating more AI-enabled apps, or at least helping developers do that.
That's a great vision. So let's talk a little bit more about Ritual. So what has Ritual already kind of published? Like what is currently out there that you've built, and what can developers do with that? And where is this all headed? What can we do in the future with Ritual?
Yeah. The focus of what we've built to start is we are really interested in the idea of how do we get crypto AI into the hands of users today? And a big part of that is prevalent in the roadmap that we've chosen to take. So ultimately what we're trying to do is make it easy for a smart contract developer to integrate an AI model into their dApp. So the first product that we've released, and every single piece of this stack is open source, is called Infernet. And Infernet is a product suite. It's basically a decentralized Oracle network. What it allows you to do is if you're on any EVM compatible chain, but theoretically any chain, you can use the SDK to call out to an off-chain compute system. It'll take your AI workload, whether it's an inference request or fine-tuning request, do the request, return it back on chain with the result, and then optionally a proof and privacy and all kind of package inside of these with these nice on-chain semantics. And this product, we already have a number of projects building on top of across a bunch of different chains and layer 2s. And the next phase for us is called Ritual Chain. And Ritual Chain is really taking the Infernet thesis, idea, and trying to extend it out to more tightly couple the experience for application developers. So take this idea of on-chain inference, fine-tuning for different types of models, and then tightly couple it with a stronger, more efficient execution system for AI workloads, on-chain semantics, proofs, privacy, and really anything else that the community wants to build. We're a very modular, focused kind of ecosystem, and we're working with many other players in the AI crypto space to be able to sort of achieve this vision.
That's great. Yeah, I'm super looking forward to where Ritual evolves, so super excited about that. Last couple of questions here. So this is kind of like, I just love to get your quick hot take on this idea. So we've heard a couple of pitches recently about this idea of what's called like an initial model offering, or IMO. And I don't know if you've heard of this before. If you have, I'd love for you to just explain what you think it is and whether you think it's going to work, and whether you think this idea has potential.
Yeah. IMOs was one of the early ideas that we pitched with Ritual last year. The idea around IMOs is really thinking about AI models as an asset. Very similar to how Ethereum is it's a new type of asset, and inside of entirely new type of asset class entirely. Ethereum can't be it's not really a security, it's not really a commodity, it's not really it's almost hard to categorize it into its own box. It's something completely new. It's many of those different properties. And AI models, what's always fascinated me about them is the control of these models today, the best ones, are highly centralized. And so today it's just the weights are kept on some server racks at Google or Facebook, and they don't really release those to people. We've seen with projects like BitTensor, Alora, they're very interested in how do we improve AI models and then reward the people that improve them and create them, in a fair manner. And that's really great in creating a way to incentivize open source contributions to open models. And I think crypto networks really have this beautiful idea of being able to combine open source code, but the right incentives on a network to create something that it makes sense for you and I to go onto the same network and collaborate rather than compete on our own products or our own models. And so being able to tokenize a model feels like a big area where we could crowdfund $30 or $40 million, train a new model. You could put it immediately into crypto distribution, into a bunch of different products. Every time an inference request happens, some percentage of that revenue is kicked back to the model creator and maybe to the platform that's running it. And the platform is able to enforce these licensing rights on chain, which is a really big innovation. So I think we'll see a future with these IMOs where people will start trading these model tokens. They will start earning them through improving it with new data or improving the evals, or even just being an early financial holder of a model. And if it takes off and people actually start using it a lot, then they'll have an improved sort of valuation over time from that offering. So there's a lot of really interesting things to do in this space around being able to incentivize the whole sort of ML or MLOps stack, everything from fine tuning to training to even provenance and how data comes into these models. So this idea is particularly exciting because it really leans into what crypto is good at, which is codifying incentive structures for different participants in a network.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a new asset class that's being created here. It's like super exciting. Last question is just around kind of AI safety and open source. So, we all know that OpenAI kind of self-censors their models, and they have a whole AI safety team, and their board in the past, at least, has been very concerned over safety and AGI and AGI taking over the world. And there's been some concerns over, like, are we kind of unleashing the hounds here with open source? Like, are we potentially causing the end of the world by promoting open source AI, right? Is that something that ever worries you? And how do we address AI safety in general?
Yeah, this is also a big question, as you know, in the Web 2 AI space. So my view is of the maybe the accelerationist camp more so than anything. So the debate for people that aren't familiar is basically in Web 2 AI, there's one camp that says for the purposes of AI safety, when these LLMs and other models get so powerful that they may become agentic or they might become AGI or something like that, it's better for it to be owned privately by a major corporation like Google or OpenAI, rather than that being fully open source and all the weights being able to be used by anyone in the ecosystem. This reminds me a lot of the cryptography debate in the 90s, where the U.S. government treated cryptography export as a munition. And so you weren't allowed to print out the code to AES or something like that onto a CD and then carry it across the border to Canada. That was illegal. And I think some guy did an experiment where he printed some code onto a T-shirt and then walked across the border, and he basically showed that code is free speech, code is open source. You can't treat that as a weapon as you could with say a gun or a nuke or something like that. So I think we have a very similar case here, maybe more at a corporate versus individual standpoint than government versus individual, but in some ways they can be similar, in that I think it's important that if we do get these agentic, AGI, super intelligent style models, that the weights are in the hands of everyone, because ultimately that will help us, prepare for any bad situations that may come up, rather than it being in the hands of 10 people, or in the case of OpenAI, 3 people deciding if they should allow it or not. So I'm very much in the camp of let's make the weights open, let's make everything open, transparent. that is what will push us the furthest and keep everyone the safest.
Love it. I have one last question that I thought of that I thought I'm particularly fascinated by myself, which is you've seen OpenAI recently start to form these deals with the Wall Street Journal and other media outlets like Reddit, where they're actually paying for data. And they're paying millions and millions of dollars a year for data to train their models. Does that make our jobs harder in the open source world? Like, how can the open source world of models compete with the proprietary models if OpenAI is raising the bar and saying it requires all this capital to compete? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. This is, I think, going to be a very important thing to study over the next couple of years, because that, for those that aren't familiar, what Ed is referencing is, it's one of the things he's referencing is the New York Times is suing OpenAI for the use of their data inside of training data for GPT-4 and some of their other models. They're trying to prove that some of the outputs came from very distinct inputs that they generated. And this is in some ways both like a downside, but also the pro of these LLMs is that you're building this generalized learner that's trained on the entire context of human history that's recorded at least over the internet through books, videos, images, music, etc. And so there's this provenance problem of, okay, but I'm the New York Times and I own the copyright to all the information, and if you are able to prove that the information that was synthesized did come from me, effectively you didn't add enough noise in the system to be able to hide it, then there's a big problem. So ultimately, I think there's one path to go, which is be OpenAI, have all the money, and then just strike all these deals. They're doing a deal with Reddit, as you probably saw, and there's going to be every single data provider on the internet, whether it's the New York Times, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, are all going to be demanding deals from the LLM companies. And it'll probably get to the point where it's maybe cost prohibitive. So to me, the only alternative to a system like that, the only way to compete with something like that, is to have open systems where things like open data is encouraged, and you can incentivize people to bring their data to you. You can compensate them for that in the use in the models directly, rather than going through OpenAI and being opaque. And this is the way to incentivize more open systems. This is why we should be using Farcaster and Lens and not Twitter, because it breaks open their data monopoly and allows you to build these LLMs in an open licensing scheme, and the users can get paid for providing their data, which I think is a win-win for everyone. So in some ways, I think you either want to be OpenAI or you want to be in crypto AI or decentralized AI. You don't want to be in the middle. You don't want to be a second or third entry player that doesn't have the resources to compete on this vector.
Completely agree. Niraj, thank you. It's been super insightful. If you want to learn more about Niraj's project, check out ritual.net. And Niraj, it's been a pleasure having you here today. It was a thrill to hear your comments, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll be right back with the next speaker.